All right, welcome everyone. We're just connecting just a few minutes early before we get started. All right. Okay, let me turn off Oprah Winfrey here real quick. Streaming that. All right, we're right here at the top of the hour. Are you ready to get started?
Real quick, Chris, before you get started. Hey guys, just before we get started, if you guys are gonna drop anything in the Zoom chat, make sure the 2 is listed as all panelists and then end attendees. Otherwise, only me, Charles, or Chris will be able to see it. So if you guys want to chat among yourselves, make sure you just change it to all panelists and end attendees. And I'm going to let Chris take it away.
All right, very good. Well, thank you. Are we recording this, by the way? I know we're going to get that question on here.
Yes, we are recording.
Okay, super. All right, well, very good. Thanks everyone for being with us today. We're going to talk about something that some of you guys have probably heard about before. Many of you have seen the video already, kind of piqued your interest, and you're jumping on here to kind of learn more about it. My name is Chris Ormiston, and I am the creator of this technology. I was able to work with several data providers to kind of put this together in a very unique way. And so we've been kind of using this for about a year now, and it's there's still not a whole lot of companies using this. We have maybe 70 or 80 projects that are going right now, so it's still wide open in the market, and I think this will be something fun to learn about. Just a little bit of background. I started at Intel Corporation as a senior systems engineer over there. And I was able to do some pretty fun stuff, travel the world, and got to build out their version of Mission Impossible to protect all of their intellectual assets. So we got to build like that room where there's lasers in the walls and in the ceilings, and all 15 cameras in the room, and all the biometrics and all that kind of stuff. So that was super fun. And then from there, I went out and started writing software for marketing companies, and specifically for my own marketing company. This is a while ago, and this is actually where Charlie and I met. We started to rank for crazy keywords like business loan and business loans and skateboards and wedding rings and Viagra and all kinds of different stuff like that, and had a lot of fun doing it. And one thing that was interesting along the way is, like, when we first started, is that Google actually wrote many of their original algorithms based off of one of my companies, and that company is still it's up and running today. So it was kind of fun to be participating with Google early on. Since then, they've outgrown me. They threw me aside, but it was fun at the time. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to talk about a new technology called Geo Conquesting. And a lot of you guys may have heard about geo-targeting and hypermobile and a bunch of things like that. We're going to cover all that today. But maybe what we can do is we can just kind of get started. And let me jump over to my presentation, and we can talk about how this is basically a surveillance system so advanced that it identifies your perfect prospects and advertises your business to them. And so how is that you can put a surveillance system in your competitors' businesses? And so we're going to talk about that today. But basically, as a local business owner, you know, they're all dependent on, you know, everything that is going to grow their business, whether it be salespeople or whether it be advertising. You know, the yellow pages is something of the past that we all kind of hear about now, but that's something that a lot of the older business owners depended on to help them grow their business. But now that that's gone, everybody's scattered to the four winds. And so we're looking to technology to bring them back in and direct them to these local businesses. And so the important thing is to let prospects know about those businesses. But the problem is that we don't really have a guaranteed way to get your message in front of these people who need your services. So we depend on a lot of things like Facebook and snail mail and email campaigns and you know, the coupon books and all these, you know, the shoppers, all those kind of things that you see around. Everything, you know, that can kind of point new customers to these businesses, these local businesses. And, you know, it all takes a lot of planning, but at the end of the game, or at the end of the day, you just don't have a lot of control over these prospects. If you think about like a coupon shopper, you know that you can get the distribution, but you know, what control do you have over, you know, reaching out to them again without sending another mailer or another, you know, coupon book, that kind of a thing. So we're always looking for new and better ways to target prospects. And so in the next few minutes, we're going to get to talk about geo-conquesting, how that can get this message in front of the perfect targeted customers. And so basically this surveillance system is built so that we can get in front of just the people that we know for a fact would be interested in these local businesses. And so even, you know, they've never needed to hear about you before, and they've never needed to see you before as well. And it's basically phone based. So this is how we target people is by their mobile phones. And we know that mobile phones are super popular these days. In fact, 91% of all smartphone users have their phone within reach 24 hours a day. And I think you can look at your own lifestyles and kind of agree with that. I mean, we live with our phones. It's a very personal thing. It's how we connect to the world in a lot of ways. In fact, 58% of smartphone users don't go 1 hour during the day without checking their phones when they're awake. So I mean, we're all, you know, intrinsically connected with our phones. And 93% of smartphone owners use them while they're shopping. And this is especially important because we're going to be talking about getting in front of them while they're shopping and getting your businesses in front of them while they're making those business decisions, those buying decisions, especially with larger things like cars and RVs and, you know, other big decisions that they make when they spend a lot of money. So we're going to talk about what geo-conquesting is and what it isn't today. So basically, let's just jump right in, and then we can talk about individual types of businesses. Be happy to answer any of the questions as we go along. So feel free to type in the chat if you have any questions or if you have any comments. All right, so first of all, what is geo-conquesting? So basically, it's a way that we can target your competitors' customers and then show them your ads and then track them to your place of business. Now, there's a couple of really key components here. This is the first time that we've ever been able to connect online to offline marketing. So basically what we do is we target them using their cell phones. We track them on their mobile phones and on their desktop computers. And then we can see when they physically walk into a location. So we consider that a conversion. And this is something that's really never been done before. So the first thing that we do is we do a geofence around 4 of their biggest competitors. And what we do is we target everybody who walks into that geofence. Now we target them on their phones. And the way that we do it is, you know, all the other companies out there, they make it so that they have to like be on their phone, like searching for something, be on the internet, click on an ad, and then they can do a little bit of retargeting, right? So that's what it's been in the past. Now here with this new technology, they don't have to take their phone out of their pocket or their purse. They can just walk into the store, they can do a transaction, or they can be looking around or doing research if it's like a car lot or something like that. And then they can leave, never touching their phone, and we can still contact them later. And we'll talk about how that works. So the second thing that we do once we target them is that we show them ads. And we show them ads on their phones. We show them at their laptops at home. We show it at their work computers. We show them everywhere that they go after that. It's not just restricted to their phones or even restricted to only apps on their phones, because we know that there's companies out there that kind of pretend to do what we do. But when it comes down to it and you talk to them, they say, oh yeah, well, we can only get on the apps, and then we can only show the ads for up to 30 days. And so they don't even get on the internet, for heaven's sake. So I don't know. So just be wary about anyone who says, yeah, we already do that, because they don't. Now, the third thing that we do is we track them as they walk into your place of business. Like, we physically track them. So the same way that we target them at the competitors' locations, we also are tracking your place of business. And when that unique cell shows up in your business after they showed up in the other, we know that it's a conversion, because they showed up at a competitor, they saw your ads, and then they showed up at your place of business. So this is a really interesting way that we can prove that we're doing, or that we're driving business into a place of business. So the first thing that we do is we set up a geofence. And so let's go through some of the technology real quick, because I know a lot of you guys are thinking, man, how does this work? It's kind of ninja technology, but really when you break it down, it's not super crazy. So basically what it is we start with this geofence, and a geofence is basically when we look on top of a Google map, we basically outline their place of business. Sometimes we include the parking lot. For instance, with RVs and car lots and things like that, I mean, they're always walking outside to look at, the RVs or the cars, right? So we definitely include all those areas as well, anywhere where they're going to be. And then once we kind of get the area, then what happens is we geofence them, and we turn on some technology that basically listens anytime somebody goes into this geofenced area. Now, when they do that, what happens is we have an agreement with 180,000 applications out there. And these applications give us what's called an application ID. And so this an advertising ID. So this advertising ID is basically just a long string of numbers that basically say, hey, this is the phone that was at this location. Now, the cool thing about it is that you can't get this advertising ID unless you have an application installed on your phone. Okay? So that's one of the things that businesses have a problem with is app adoption. I mean, some of the biggest companies have a problem with app adoption, like Yelp. Like, not everybody has Yelp installed on their phone. And it's very difficult for any app whatsoever to get good app adoption. So it was important for us to go out there and get a whole bunch of apps. Now, the apps that we have partnered with are apps such as Google Maps and Men's Magazine and lots of news sites and lots of like weather type applications and games and many different things like that. We have enough apps that we estimate that we are on over 87% of all cell phones that are in existence. So basically that gives us the ability to target 87% of all people that are out there potentially, okay? So having this advertising ID, it looks something that looks like this. See where it says your advertising ID? We all have one on our phone, and many of us have never seen it before. But really what it does, it's a unique identifier that tells us, or it tells advertising companies that are, the display companies and things like that, who, how to target the phone. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but remember MAC addresses? Remember we used to target a lot of MAC addresses and stuff on desktops and things like that. Well, there's a MAC address on your phone as well. But I don't know if you guys know this, but it cycles about every 5 minutes. And it does that for privacy's sake. So all the cell phone manufacturers cycle this MAC address every 5 minutes. And so this puts us at a disadvantage when we're trying to track people and trying to get their to show the right ads to the right people, right? So we get this advertising ID, and it lets us know who to contact. Now, the cool thing about this is that this ad ID typically will be in existence for the life of that phone, not 30 days, not 60 days, for the entire life of that phone. So we can go out there and we can market to these people anytime we want after we target them. So it gives us a lot of control over these people. Now, another thing that we do on this is we use something that's called cross-device retargeting. So we take this advertising ID, and there's companies out there such as, like, say, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, a lot of the banking industries out, or companies out there, that know when you log into their application on their phone, and then you log into their application on your desktop, they get the unique identifiers for each one and say, hey, we know that John Doe logged in from their phone and from this computer over here. John Doe must be associated with both of those. And then, oh, here's another one from work. Oh, and here's another tablet. We don't know where the tablet is, but it came from this tablet. And so it starts to collect all these things. And then what they do is they sell us that information so we can show the ads on all of their devices that John Doe logs into. So that's how we follow them to home and we follow them to work. Any questions so far? All right, so basically what that allows us to do is when we target them at a place of business, we can follow them home and to work, just like this illustration shows right here. And so the next question that typically is like, what businesses work best with this type of a thing? And basically you can kind of picture in your head, if there's a brick and mortar type of business, if they have a business place that you can go to, like an office or like this dealership right here, it's probably a good fit. So it works well for dealerships. It works well for auto mechanics. And it works well for, say, chiropractors and medical doctors, things like that. Anything in the health industry. It works well for dentists. And it works well for even pet groomers. And spas, like day spas and health spas, things like that. So all those different types of things. In fact, it works for all of these types of businesses and more. So I'm going to stay on this slide for just a second so you can take a look at it, because there's quite a few industries on here. And as marketers yourselves, you can probably see some of these types of companies that you've either marketed for in the past or that you're currently marketing for.
Hey, Chris, while they're looking over that list, we actually got a question from Darren. He wanted to know if people have to opt in for these ads.
Nope, there's no opt-in necessary.
How about opting out? So if they don't want to see it, is there a way for them to opt out of seeing those ads for however long they're running for?
Nope, not really, because remember, we're not showing ads in an application. We're showing ads using the display ad network. So regardless of where you go on the internet, if there's a display ad place, a placement, there's going to be an ad that shows there. For instance, if you go to the New York Times, there's always going to be an ad at the top. There's always going to be an ad on the right side, at least one. I think there's 3. And so there's always going to be an ad there. So the question is are they going to see your ad, or are they going to see somebody else's ad? And in the applications, are they going to see your ad, or are they going to see somebody else's? So there's really no need to turn it off, because there's just a place there to show the ad, and you'll be there in that place. All right. Any questions about any of these types of companies? We're going to go over a couple of different case studies. We're going to go over a restaurant case study, a casino case study, and then a political one that's a little bit different that you may not have thought of. Okay, now, so basically, when we get to this area right here, let's see here, we can target people as they walk through a store, or as they're eating a meal, or as they're looking for a car. So all of these people all of a sudden become targets for somebody else who wants their business, and while they're making a buying decision. So the question is how and where do we target? So the first thing that we do is we target them where they are. For instance, if they're on an RV lot and they're walking around looking at these big monstrous RVs that are just gorgeous. I think there's like 90% plus of people who research while they're shopping on their phones. So while they're either price shopping, or they're feature shopping, or they're just looking around at different models, things like that, we can be in front of them when any ad space is available. And so we can be in front of them before they make that buying decision, and they can start seeing the branding. They can start seeing, different specials that are available, where you're located, all those types of things they can start seeing while they're on a competitor's lot. And then when they go home, we can show them using Geo Conquesting at their home or at their place of business, because we can follow them home and to work. And so it's an incredibly powerful tool that we can follow them after they leave this geo-targeted area. This is where everyone else falls short. There's a lot of people who can show ads when you're in a geo-targeted area, which we call hypermobile, which is number 1. What everyone else falls short on is 2 and 3. As soon as they leave that geo-targeted area, they become ghosts. They can never contact them again. And so this is where the strength lies in this, is that we can follow them home and to work until they make that buying decision, preferably at your customer's location, their place of business. Now, another thing that we can do is we can do a look back window. That means that we are currently targeting millions of locations across the United States right now. And we can show this to people who have been in a place of business for in the last 30 days. Everybody who's been there in 3, 6, or even 12 months ago. So for instance, this is really powerful when you're talking about restaurants. So for instance, if you're looking for people who like steak restaurants, where better to target than people who have been in steak restaurants in the last 30 days? What about, say, wineries? People who like wine go where? Go to wine tasting, right? So the best place to target that is at your competitors' wine tasting events, things like that, right? So there's very few things that can get as specific and as perfectly targeted as this geo-conquesting. All right, audiences now. Let's talk about audiences, because there's also important, like what we call pre-built audiences that are valuable to target as well. So even though we can target people as they walk onto a lot, there's also different types of data that we can use to target specific kinds of people. Just like in this picture right here, there's lots of people walking around, but only one of them is important to us, that guy in the middle, right? And so basically, for instance, what we can do is we can say, hey, there's a person like right here near Columbia, and what we want to do is we want to target them. And what we want to do is we want to target them based on a 5-mile radius of this store. Another thing that we want to do is we want to target them whether they're male or female, or if they're between a certain age group. Like, do we want to market to teenagers? Probably not, unless it's a teenage focused thing, like maybe a gaming type store, or maybe it's a bounce house, you know, where they jump on trampolines, things like that, right? What about the marital status? Are they married or are they not married? What about the parental status? Do they have kids? Are they parents? Would they be interested in this type of a store or product? Are they homeowners? What car do they drive? And what is their household income? And perhaps a net worth. So these are all just a smidge of different types of things that we can target. For instance, we have a group right now that we can target, like an audience that's all pre-built, that tells us who's in the market to buy a car, or who's in the market right now to buy an RV. So there's lots and lots of different types of things. For political type things, we can target if you're Republican, if you're Democrat, if you're Libertarian, I mean, there's lots of different types of groups that we have that we can target. And then we can layer over a geo fence, or we can target like a city or a state, depending on what's needed. And then they see these ads on these little tiny websites. You know, I'm sure you've probably heard of some of these before. CNN, ESPN, People, Forbes, Rolling Stone, and Facebook. So these were where all the ads show up, is when people are going around the internet and just you know, using the internet for what it's used for. And whenever there's an ad placement, I'm sure you guys have all seen them around. We have a 96% coverage rate through all internet advertising. And so we have, you know, if there's an ad placement that you can see on a site, there's a 96% chance we can get there and put your ad there. Now, when they walk into this area, or they live in this area, and they, you know, fit all of the different you know, aspects that we want, like say, for instance, if we're targeting dentists, for dentists, the strategy for dentists is we only target females that are over 21 years old, that are married, and actually it doesn't matter if they're married or not, but females that are 21 years old and homeowners. And so basically what that tells us is that they're part of a family, and that they're going to bring more than one person in with them. So that's super valuable as a dentist. And one thing that we've learned as we've done a lot of this marketing is that women are the ones that make decisions, the health decisions in the home, even including the husbands. So they're the ones setting up the appointments for the husbands to go get their teeth cleaned, to get, their dental stuff taken care of, for the kids, for themselves. These are the decision makers in the home for dentists. It's not like that for every aspect of the home, of course, but for health, we only target women, and we have very good success by targeting just women. And that really narrows down the target or the marketing dollars to just the people who are the decision makers for that particular industry. Now, another thing too is that as they go around and they go throughout their day, they're seeing ads like this: 5-star auto repair, selective hearing or hearing loss. And so we may do that for the elderly. Invisalign for a local dentist. Like we saw before, the 5-star auto repair for an auto mechanic, and furnace price quotes, things like that. So all these different types of ads we can target to all these different types of people. And then we show them on all their devices, on their phones and on their tablets and on their desktop computers, even their work computers. We can just follow them around because we know who the person is. We just follow that person around. So that is the basis of geo-conquesting. Is there any questions about any aspect of geo-conquesting and how it may be able to make you a lot of money in your agency?
I did get another question. Is this only based in the U.S. or can other countries or worldwide be able to use these other dentists, say in Germany or whatnot?
Okay, good question. So basically, if you have a large campaign, we can go outside the United States. Right now, it's located just in the United States. It cost a small fortune to kind of put this together. So we're trying to recoup our investment into the United States right now. However, we can open this up outside the United States if you are willing to commit to a $5,000 a month campaign for 12 months. So for larger companies, that's not really a big deal. For local businesses, it's not going to fly. So like if you have a chain, that's probably no big deal at all. Just a minimum of $5,000 a month is like, it's like, it's not a big deal for chains in different companies like that. So that is what it's limited to right now. We're getting ready to open up Mexico. So if you guys have any businesses in Mexico, then that is going to be on the playing field here pretty soon, like within a few weeks to a month. So just the US and Mexico right now. Canada is a different story. They have laws that are right now that prohibit this from happening. So the UK is the same way. They have laws that are basically prohibiting this from happening. So if you live in either of those two countries, good luck doing any business, because they're basically shutting all advertising down, is what it seems like.
That's
So,
with that new GDRP launch.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yep.
Now, that's not what it's called in Canada, but it's something very similar. And we're working with Canada right now, and we've gotten some headway into convincing them that we don't have personal identifiable information. So they're considering letting us open up in Canada, but that still remains to be seen, and it's not open yet. Now, that being said, we can do all other types of targeting. We can do the look back window targeting. We can do the hypermobile, and we can do the audiences in all countries right now in the entire world. In fact, we're doing some really small islands that I've never even heard of the names before, and we're doing very well on those. So anywhere where there's internet in the world, we can do everything except for the personal tracking. The personal tracking is the only thing we can't do outside of the United States right now.
Okay, we got another question from Christina. She said, so if I enter a store or am in a geo-targeted area, I get tagged and I'll start seeing ads on my searches, on Safari, Chrome, etc. on my phone. Then when I get home, my Wi-Fi gets tagged and then my family starts seeing it as well?
No, it's a little bit different. So, I mean, it's possible that your family could see those, because if you have a shared computer at home and you've logged into different accounts, like your banking account from that computer, that indicates that you kind of own that computer, then it's possible they would see those ads. More likely, it's going to be on all of our personal devices. Good question, though. And that's the same with all type of advertising, whether you're getting retargeted from Amazon or eBay or Zappos or anything like that. It all works the same way.
how wide is the fence area for each pin? What's the max coverage area one pin can do?
Good question. So basically, one pin can be up to 900 meters. So we don't recommend that at all because it's just too big. I mean, if you're gonna do 900 meters, you might as well do a zip code or a whole city because it's big. You should never have to do something that big. The biggest thing that we've done so far is an airport. That tends to be a little bit bigger. So that's when that may be an exception. But if you have an area that's that big, you better have a big spending budget because you're going to target a lot of people. And I mean, what's the use of collecting, 10,000 names so you can market to 20 of them? So it's a little bit, and we can help you with that. Like when you have clients and things like that, and you want to brainstorm. Charlie, he's a superstar at helping, understand, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what may be a better play, things like that. Sometimes you may want to use an audience instead of geo-conquesting to target real specific people in specific circumstances, kind of a thing.
Because that's roughly half a mile for a radius, so that's enormous. Enormous, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we'll do fairgrounds, things like that, where there's lots of big events and stuff like that.
And then how easy is it to move one pin? Say you're a commercial roofer, you're at a project for 3 weeks, so you pin the area, and then you're going to move to another city or state. How easy is it to move those pins?
That's a good question. So basically, each time that we set up a group of locations to target, it's a 3-month minimum commitment. So basically, it takes an enormous effort to put all this together. It's no joke. I mean, it sounds really cool and all this stuff, which it is, but it takes an immense amount of effort to make all these connections and make sure that everything's flowing properly and everything like that. There's lots of different technologies that go into making this all happen. And it's not automated in a lot of ways that we wish it was. It's a brand new emerging technology that it's never seen the light of day before we put it together. And so because it's so intensive to put it together, some of the data providers demand that we have at least a 3-month minimum so that they're not constantly churning locations because it's a massive amount of work to make that happen. And then you can change it anytime after that, and you can add additional ones, of course. But as far as changing them out, it would be after 3 months.
So it's really better for a business that's going to be stationary, or at least dropping these pins where they're not planning on moving it for at least 1 to 2 quarters.
Exactly. Now, for instance, as far as like your roofer, pinning these areas wouldn't necessarily be the best play for a roofer because really, we've done a lot of roofing companies before, and what we target with them is we usually target older neighborhoods that are ready to re-roof their homes. Like for instance, like a big area may have a bunch of asphalt shingle homes that were built in, the 70s or 80s, and it's about time to get those, replaced. And so a lot of the roofers will know the hot spots of the areas that, they're commonly, re-roofing the homes there. And we can just target those areas right there for homeowners. And so we can get the homeowners in like a zip code or in a city that's like right there. So that tends to be a better play for something like that. That's a mobile type company.
Nice.
Hey, you guys want to see some case studies? Let's take a look at some case studies. What do you say? All right. So let's take a look at a dealership. Can you guys see this okay? I'm just going to kind of wing it here. Okay, so we're marketing for a Mercedes dealership out in Florida. And this dealership, basically, they started with us. And I'm not going to go through all this right now because this right here is basically just an explanation of how everything works that we just went through right here. But basically, we targeted this dealership and we did 4 different things for them. We did 3 different technologies for them. We did the hypermobile. So when anybody was on one of the competitors' lots, they basically targeted, let me show you right here, the locations they targeted. It is right. Where did I put that? Okay, right here. Here's the case study right here. So basically we can see right here that they targeted an Infiniti dealership, a Lexus dealership, a BMW, and an Audi dealership. So all of those are in the luxury car area, right? If you were looking at a BMW or an Audi or any of these, you would most likely be able to afford and to be able to be in the market for a Mercedes, or at least consider one. So anytime that you're on any one of those lots, we would do hypermobile targeting to basically cast some doubt in their mind so they don't purchase a car right then. Have you checked out our new Mercedes, you know, SL55 or whatever it happens to be, you know, whatever sedans that they're promoting, or, you know, whichever models are hot on the market. You know, don't buy a car until you test drive this today. You know, different types of things, these messages that they're sending out while they're on their competitors' lots. So that was the hypermobile targeting. And then we did the programmatic in-market audiences. Who's in the market for a luxury car? So we have a pre-built list of people who have basically raised their hands in different ways. They've been to different websites, they've gotten a loan at a bank, or they've gotten pre-approved for a loan at a bank at a certain level. There's lots of different ways that we can tell that they're in market for a car. And so we targeted the in-market audiences. We also did retargeting, so that when they left and they went home, we would show them the ads when they went home. And then that's basically what we did. And so what we did is we targeted all those people, and here's the results. We were able to target 1,194 people. This is in the first month, by the way. So we ran this is the first 60 days, 2 months. So we targeted 1,194 people at the competitor's location. So we were able to get this many people who are in the market for a luxury car at their competitors' locations, at the BMW lot, looking for a Lexus at the Lexus dealership, things like that. We showed 279,000 ads. We had 37 people walk into our location, into the Mercedes dealership, after they were in a competitor, which resulted in 12 sales. So basically, over a $50,000 profit for them for this in the first 60 days. So this is just one example of a dealership. Any questions about that one? Want to see another one? How about a white paper on casinos? All right, so we do a lot of marketing for casinos. We do a lot of marketing for a publicly traded group of casinos. I think it's 28, 29 casinos. And this is basically a AdWords, and we're going to ignore that for now, but basically a programmatic buying overview for this casino. And so I'm not going to go through all this right here. Let's just kind of go through some of the results that we got. Because one thing that's important about understanding display advertising is that this is excellent for people who are researching or people who are looking for entertainment. And in this case, it covers both, because when people go to casinos, they're going either for entertainment, or they're going to stay in a hotel and go, visit different places around. So they're either doing research for a hotel, or they're looking for something fun to do. And so basically, here's the average click-through rate by campaign type. So just to kind of set a standard right here, here's the industry average for the click-through rate, how many people click on the ads for these industries right here. It's about 0.07% click-through rate. So that's what everybody's getting right now. We were able to get nearly a 0.2% click-through rate, which is 3 times the industry average. In all of these categories, you can see that we exceeded the industry average for all of these categories right here. And this is all for the display advertising. And then right here, here's the cost per click. So the average cost per click in these industries it equaled to about $2.80. Well, look at this cost down here. We're looking about $1.70, $1.75 for each click on here. And if you go and you look at the like say hotel branding or event type things, I mean, usually the clicks are like way above $2.80, especially at certain times of the year. But this is a very conservative estimate right here. You can see by using this platform that you can get basically a less expensive click. You can reach more audience with less dollar. Okay, let's go take a look at a little bit more here. Here's the CPM. So basically CPM is a crazy term that basically just means how many ads, or how much does it cost to show 1,000 ads. So M stands for milli, and so it's basically cost for 1,000 ads. And so here's the industry average right here is $6.25. You can see we're way below that. We're like half. I think we're 55% below that, for all of our costs. So basically we were able to reach out to twice as many people for their ad dollar as they would with any other agency, essentially. So, and this is because we have wholesale pricing on all of our data, and we do that for all of our accounts so that you can reach more people. And we're not going to go into AdWords right here, but this is one right here. Now, another one that we are looking at right here is, and jump in if you have any questions. I can't see the questions on my side, so.
There was one from Cliff before we jumped into the political one. So he's also from Arizona, and he works a lot with home remodel companies. And he said he'd love to hear a scenario that they could use. Cliff, do you want to get a little bit more specific on what kind of remodel companies you're using, or that are working with you? Kitchen and bath, to be specific.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So basically that would follow the same type of process as like a roofer. So basically what you want to do is you want to find the areas in the city that are looking to remodel homes. Now, typically it's maybe not even in older areas. It could be affluent areas like Scottsdale, like Sun City, like places like where there's like new developments, things like that, where they want to have like maybe an addition built onto their home, even though their home is new or newish. Maybe the in-laws need to move in, that kind of a thing. And so anywhere where there's areas where there tends to be a lot of remodeling that's happening, you can target homeowners in those areas.
And you can target at a specific annual revenue, so kind of what the couple does per year, or family does, things like that.
Yeah, so you can basically, you can put demographic as one of those layers that you target on. So you can say, I don't want to market to anyone who has a net worth of less than $1 million, or who make less than $120,000 a year as combined income in the home, that kind of a thing. Because you want them to have discretionary income, or else they can't pay you, right? So those are all different things that you can layer on top to make sure that you're spending your dollar as wisely as possible.
So his next question was, could we, and you might have answered this, but I'll let you verify that. Could we target high income areas, zip codes? So that's where you're talking about somebody that has that discretionary funds, or neighborhoods that would have those discretionary funds.
Yeah, in fact, we can even narrow it down with the affluent areas. We can do all homeowners in those affluent areas, which is a pretty good market. But we can also layer on top of that where there's a minimum income level or a minimum net worth level that we can put on top of that. So we can avoid a lot of the thousandaires that live in those areas. I mean, you know what I'm talking about for Scottsdale, right? All those young professionals who drive up in BMWs and they're making 60 grand a year, right? And they live in like a kind of a shoddy apartment so they can afford a fancy car. But that shoddy apartment may be in a more affluent area because they need to get back and forth to work, pretty quickly. So we can avoid a lot of those things by narrowing them out using demographics that way.
Perfect.
I love that term, thousandaires.
Thousandaires, yes.
Good question, Sam.
Well, that is it for questions for right this second. So I'll let you go with this one.
Okay, let's go over one more area. This is a little bit off the beaten path a little bit, but I just wanted to throw this in here just to kind of give you an idea on how flexible this can be. So here's a politics white paper right here that we did. So we were able to do some crazy things for a group in Florida. So there's a city in Florida that passed a 2-cent tax to pay for road repairs, for emergency services, and other like social services that were needed in the area. And so it took a lot of effort to get all the ballots signed so that they can get even, on the ballot to have it passed. And the people reluctantly passed it, knowing that, you can't really do without a fire department. But there's like a lot of other things that were kind of thrown in there that they're like, it's like, things that they added onto the bill. So they reluctantly passed it. And the problem is that the city came back and said, we didn't collect near enough this last year. And we're proposing that we have another 2-cent tax on top of the 2-cent tax we passed last year. And the people were outraged. They were so livid that they were that the government, the people who had put this to them last year, that they didn't just ask for a 4-cent tax right off the bat and get what they needed, and they felt it was very irresponsible. And so basically, these government officials reached out to us and they said, we need some help because we're in a heap of trouble. They said we're at risk of losing our ambulance services and our fire department and some of our other emergency services. And they're like, we can get away with roads for a little while, but this stuff we cannot, do without. And these people are just not getting how critical this is. So what we did is we went out there and we targeted everybody in that city who was of voting age, and we did it heavily. Every single person in that city was able to see ads multiple times, and basically these ads were set up in a way that like we went to them, we said, look, this is going to need to be a very personal outreach to these people. So what I need you to do is I need you to go take pictures of the fire departments in that area. I need you to take pictures of the firemen in those fire departments, not just like stock photography. I need the firemen who serve in this area. I need policemen. I need ambulance people. I need all these people. I need roads that are actually there. I need, all these things. And so we built ads based on all these things. And so when people are looking at these ads, they're like, hey, that's my cousin Andy. He's on the fire department. Or, hey, I drive by that fire department every day. I recognize that building, and so it became very personal to them. And then when they clicked on these ads, which many of them did, they were able to learn the problem that they were facing as a community and as a city, and be able to revitalize that. So let me show you what the results were. So I kind of explain a little bit how the technology works here. But for about a $6,600 ad spend, and we only did this for 40 days. This wasn't a long-term thing. This was like a big push for 38 days. We were able to show 1.5 million ads in this small city. This is not a big city. I think there's like 150,000 people in the area, right? 2,000 people, 2,100 people clicked on the ads to learn more about it. We had a click-through rate of 0.139%. And if you remember, 0.07 is the industry average. So we were over double the industry average. And the cost per impression was like 0.4 of a cent to show these. Now, the cool thing about it is that at the end of the day, they passed this bill, and they passed it at a 51% rate. Hold on one second. I got somebody calling in. Sorry about that. And so basically they passed it at a 51% level, so that it squeaked by, and they were able to pass that 2-cent tax. And so when they were interviewed on the news, they basically said, and they were astounded that they even got it on the ballot at all. They said, first of all, we don't understand how you even got it on the ballot, and that there's enough people to sign it to get on the ballot. Second of all, how did this pass? Because there's so much outreach. They basically said we doubled down on our internet marketing, and they did no other marketing except for us, by the way. They didn't do any Facebook, they didn't do any pay-per-click, nothing, just this. So we were able to get this tax paid in that area. So anyway, I wanted to bring this up to show you the power that is behind display advertising. This is how elections are won, through social media and through display advertising. That's the mechanisms that they're won on the internet. So there's a lot of power behind these ads, and they can be for your local businesses as well, especially with the geo-targeting, when we know exactly the people to target from the competitors' locations.
So a question came through. How do we stop? So like let's use me for example. I go down business trips all the time, Florida, Chicago, wherever, and we have people running ads in Chicago. How does this system stop someone like me that is never going to buy from anybody in Chicago, but my annual income hits that mark of what they need, and all that stuff hits the mark, but I'm not here? How does this system stop someone like me seeing it when I don't even live there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you don't live there, you're not going to see the ads in the first place, because remember, we designate what areas we show those ads in, and only those areas. So
Well,
for instance, if we want to have like a local business in Chicago, we're not showing the ads anywhere outside of Chicago.
right. No, I think more the question is what if someone drives through Chicago or drives through that neighborhood or stops and say it's a deli and stops at that deli who is a competitor of another deli down the road? I think that's more where they're asking.
There's going to be some leakage and stuff, but I mean, think about how many people are locals that go there versus like people are just driving by. I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of, showing the ads to people that don't live in the area, but it's infinitesimal compared with people who are locals there.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what I figured. I wanted to verify. So
yep.
It's a lot like PPC. If you're in Chicago and you just happen to be searching something, your geolocation on your phone is going to pull up plumbers from Chicago. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's just like billboards too. If you're driving through, those billboards don't mean a lot to you because, you're never going to go to that lawyer that's up on that billboard because you don't live there. So it's all the same.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else got any other questions? Well, we got Chris on the line. I don't see any other questions coming in.
Okay, super. So how do people learn more if they want to kind of dive into this? They want to do some brainstorming. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, they can reach out to me. I'm also going to send along Charles's information with the recording that comes out. So you guys can either reach out to me or Charles to get more of a deep dive. And if needed, we can set up a time for you guys to get on with Chris on a one-on-one. And however you guys need to do it, we'll make sure we can help you guys make sure you guys figure out what it is you want to do and before you go lay it out to your clients.
Yep.
And then I'll get this recording sent out here in about an hour after it finishes rendering.
Then we can help you guys get those surveillance systems set up at all of your competitors' locations.
Yes, sir. And I did get a couple of questions on getting these white label studies or case studies. Can I get those from you, and I can also keep those in the email?
Yeah, happy to pass those along to you.
Perfect.
And then you can distribute them to everybody.
Alrighty, we can do that. So again, you guys have any other questions that you can think of? If not, that's okay. Like I said, I'll be reaching out to y'all.
I have this nice infographic I can send out to you too that you saw in the presentation. So I'll show you what that looks like, how it works. This is kind of nice to pass along to customers where it shows like, hey, we target your competitors, we show them your ads, and then we follow them into your place of business. And then it has some common questions down here as far as other businesses that this is ideal for in here. So
perfect.
This tends to be pretty helpful. So we can send this along too, and this is all white labeled, of course.
Good. So I will get all that out to you guys along with this infographic. Christina says, what can an emergency room expect to spend for something like this?
An emergency room, typically we target personal injury lawyers. So, I mean, personal injury lawyers typically target emergency rooms. Is that what you mean by that?
Well, Christina, correct me if I'm wrong. She works a lot with doctors. She's really big into the medical industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking more for her clients that are urgent care and emergency room.
Gotcha.
In their niches. Yep, that's exactly it.
We actually do a lot of medical stuff like that. So we target hospitals all across the nation, specifically emergency rooms, people who have experienced trauma of some sort. So yeah, we do a lot of that actually.
Christina, why don't I get you a time set up with Chris to answer that? I think that might need a little bit more of a deep dive on.
Yeah. We can talk more specifically about what type of doctors you have and what targets may be good for them.
Yeah.
The medical industry is ripe for this type of technology for sure.
Perfect. So I will get that set up between the two of you guys. And We have that. What are before we let you go, Chris, if you could name 5 businesses that this absolutely would not work for whatsoever, well, what would be your top 5?
That's a good question. So basically anything that's emergency based. So plumbers, this does not work well for. Heating and air conditioning, this doesn't work for. Some home services, the ones that are mobile, this doesn't work for, like roofers and stuff like that, because there's no business to track it back to. So we do different types of marketing for each of those types of companies, like audience-based marketing, things like that. Let me see, one more it wouldn't work for. I don't know, maybe a balloon company, like for like entertainment, like if you want to go up in a balloon for like your anniversary or something like that. Something like that, because there's no business to track it back to.
Sure.
So this tends to be a little bit expensive to do all the tracking and things like that. So you want to make sure that they have a place of business that we can track them from one location to another. And that's when it becomes really appropriate and very powerful.
Okay, perfect. Well, we are actually wrapping up right on time, and it doesn't look like there's any other questions out here. So you guys, I actually know pretty much everybody on this webinar, so if something happens to pop up after we get off, because it always happens, feel free to hit me up and I'll connect whoever I need to connect. And Chris and Charles, I appreciate your time jumping on here, explaining how this program works and how it can help not only our businesses, but our clients' businesses as well.
Excellent. Thanks for having me on today. Appreciate your time.
Oh, it was a pleasure. So, guys, like I said, give me about an hour and a half, and I'll get everything rendered and emailed out to you with some of these white label case studies, the recording of the webinar, and some other contact information as well. All right.